of the agenda. So seeking a motion.
Actually, we need to do roll call first.
Oh, I always forget about the roll call.
That's all right.
Sorry. So we will do roll call. So I will start with Ken Brown.
Hi, I'm here.
Myself, Antonia, I'm here. Josh, are you here yet? I know you're going to be late. Okay. Omar? Omar?
He's muted.
All right. If I see Omar's on, is that sufficient? Audrey?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's not get
Aaron?
too hung up on protocol here.
Aaron's here.
Stephanie?
Here.
Adam? I actually think Adam is unavailable today. Kristen?
Here. Sorry, here.
Sarah?
Here.
Arhan? Do we have Arhan today? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. All right. So first order of business is the approval of the agenda. So seeking a motion.
Don't move, Brown.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
This is Aaron. I second.
Thank you, Aaron.
Under the director's informational items, I'd like to talk about the library services update. I'd like to add that to the agenda.
So addition. Do we have to reapprove then, Audrey?
No, you can just approve as amended, I believe. Ken, is that okay? Is that the right way to do it?
You bet.
Okay.
All right. So I move that this motion be amended with the addition of the director's informational item. Next, we have approval of the consensus agenda, which includes the contracts, minutes, bills, and the monthly reports. So seeking a motion to approve.
The vote. Hi, this is Aaron. This is Aaron. I move to approve.
Second, Brown.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So now we're moving on to president's business.
Actually, we need to take a vote.
Oh, Audrey, right. Where is my brain today? I'm forgetting about us being remote. So let's backtrack. Approval of the agenda. I do need to do roll call for that. So I'm going to go through that quite quickly. I'll start with Ken.
Aye.
Antonia, aye. Omar, we are going to need to either hear you or receive a message for your vote.
I don't see him on.
Thumbs up, Omar.
I'm here.
Oh, perfect. Aye or nay? Aaron?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Adam? Not present. Kristen?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Arhan? Not present. And as a reminder, that was amended with the addition of the director's informational item. So moving on to the consensus agenda, we did receive a motion from Aaron with a second from Ken. So running through the roll call again, Ken?
Aye.
Antonia? Aye. Omar?
Aye. I'm not here.
Thank
Sorry.
you. Aaron?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Perfect. Okay. The agenda has been approved. The consensus agenda has been approved. Apologies for forgetting that we are remote, not in person. So now we will move on to president's business, and we will start with the foundation report.
Hi, this is Brenda. We are planning for our virtual happy hours which is going to be this Friday and Saturday. We still have plenty of room for people to join. On Friday night, we will have a local authors expert talking about the 350 authors that live here in Rochester. And then we'll be following that at 7 p.m. with trivia, which is library and book trivia. So that will be kind of fun. It'll be led by a former library team member and a member also of the trivia team. And then Saturday at 5, we'll have a brackets like the NCAA.
Hey, Brenda,
Brenda,
can you pause for 1 second?
Sure.
Hi, team. Just a reminder, if you guys can mute when you're not speaking, just so we can hear what Brenda is saying. Sorry about that. Brenda?
That's okay. And then on Saturday at 5 p.m., we'll have the brackets, which is going to be crowning the top book based on the people who are attending that specific session. Each person can either BYOB and make a donation of just $10 to attend, or for $20, we'll deliver 2 beverages to your home. For $30, we'll deliver 4 beverages to your home, as long as we have enough lead time. But it's just a chance to connect with patrons and talk about books and talk about the library. And we were very fortunate to receive some beverage donations from Shot Brewery and Fresh Time. So we're really happy. And then we've also got gift cards from the local breweries in town to give out as prizes. So it's going to be a fun little event, and hopefully people on the call could participate. The information's on Facebook, where you can shoot Audrey or Karen or myself an email, and we can get you the link. So thanks.
That sounds awesome. Thank you so much, Brenda. Any questions for Brenda before we move on to the Friends report? All right, next is the Friends report. Do we have any updates today?
No updates. They're continuing to sell online.
Sounds good. With Josh not being here, I'm assuming we do not have a Selco report, Audrey. If I'm incorrect, let me know.
That is correct. I don't have an update since the February meeting.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, Youth Representative report.
Yeah, so not much has changed since our February meeting. Just moving forward to going back to all in-person school with, of course, that virtual option still available to many students in Rochester Public Schools. I guess the biggest addition would just be confirming that we are a one-to-one school and district now. So those devices that students should have access to, they can be picked up at their school building. And so I think just continuing the work that the library has done, and just knowing that this transition will be difficult for many people in our community. And so keeping all the resources and all of our library community, I guess, up throughout this time.
Sarah, this is Erin. This isn't necessarily related to what you just said, but I know when you and Aaron started, you talked about some opportunities around our app, and having just used it recently and struggled yet again with it, I was wondering if there's any traction on looking at improving that at all. It's not necessarily just to you, Sarah, to the whole board.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I haven't done anything or heard anything more on that. I know that in our introductions, kind of like onboarding, we talked a little bit about that, but I would love to hear if anyone has any updates for that.
Erin, are you referring to the app for the accessing the library? So we did get funding, and we will be bringing up the library app this summer called Blue Cloud Mobile. And so you should see a huge improvement this summer.
Fabulous, thank you.
Yep.
And just out of curiosity, Audrey, who's weighing in on the improvements to the app?
So the app that had existed is one that was called BookMine, and the vendor is ceasing updates on that. And So we are replacing it with Blue Cloud Mobile, which is, we reported last month that I thought we did, that Selco is funding through the Regional Library Telecommunication Act funding. They are going to be, Selco's paying 100% of that for RPL. So that's where the funding's coming from. So it's the vendor, it's the vendor option.
Got you. And it's going to meet all of our experience needs?
We believe it will.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you, Audrey.
Yep.
Apologies if I'm a little behind on the news on that one.
No,
Thank you.
well, if I did not report that, I apologize. I was thinking I did it last month, but if I didn't, I apologize.
Any questions for Sarah before we wrap up on President's business? All right. So we will move on to new business, and the first item is the 2020 Minnesota Public Library Annual Report. Audrey, I'm assuming you're going to walk us through this.
Right. So basically, what happens every year is we take our statistics. I was actually on a committee at the state level that worked on how to do a public library annual report in the middle of COVID because everything is different. And I really want to give a shout out to the narrative that was added. That really, because that report was emailed to everyone, and the narrative that was on how the library responded to COVID, I thought was really well written, and that was done by Beth Butterfield. I'm sure, and with some editing help, but so really it's a reflection of what happened last year. And so at this point, I would open it up for questions.
I'm assuming, Audrey, that we simply had to answer the questions that the Minnesota Department of Education put out, right?
Correct.
Their format.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. But this year there were a lot more, when programming is all done virtually, how do you count attendance, things like that. The state had to put out a lot more guidance on how to do that. But we followed the state guidelines in filling that report out.
Yeah.
And a huge shout out to Perna, who does that work.
Yeah. I thought it was really helpful. Only thing I wish they had allowed, that they had highlighted was kind of the extra activities that occurred as a result of shutting down in-person services and going virtual. I felt like it wasn't really captured, but obviously that's out of our control.
Right, and that was really what was captured in that narrative section.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. There were very few libraries that responded the way we did. And really a shout out to the whole team. We've answered over 50,000 calls from the call center. So a lot of great work happening.
That's amazing. Any questions for Audrey and or Perna prior to moving on to the next item?
And we will need a motion to approve that report.
Okay. That sounds good. So if there are no questions, then I'd appreciate someone putting forth a motion to approve the report.
So move, Brown.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Sounds like we had a motion from Ken with a second from Stephanie and Omar. So we're covered. Thank you. Now we will take votes by roll call. So I'll start with Ken.
Aye.
Antonia, aye. Josh, are you present?
I am. Aye.
Oh, thank you. Omar?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And just checking in case Arhan is available. Arhan? Okay. So now we'll move on to the next item. Now that motion has passed, to the review of the library strategic plan. And Audrey, this is another item I'm assuming you're going to walk us.
Yeah, so what I wanted to put back in front of you is the library strategic plan that was approved last January, right before COVID. And as tradition, we the library board reviews this annually. I will say also traditionally, we typically don't have a lot of changes the first year, and of course because of COVID. You know, I would not be surprised if there are no changes to this document as we continue to work on things, but I did want to make sure this came back in front of the board in case there was anything as you reviewed it that you thought, or basically because of how we've had to respond during COVID, is there something that needs to get updated in our strategic plan? We are not bringing forward any recommendations for changes, but we'd certainly be open to, if you want us to modify this document. This is a board-owned document, so this is, you decide the strategic plan, we work on the action plan. So any questions or updates or anything that as you reviewed it, you thought, that needs some more work?
Hi, Audrey. It's more for Karen. Are we going to be updating the internal documents with the new, I guess, letterhead / city branding for this document as well?
Yes, we will be doing that. I don't know, Karen's muted, but yes. And I'm the one who grabbed this. If we have one with a new logo, I grabbed the wrong one. So that's probably on me. But great question. Great question.
Anybody else with questions or any insights, concerns, feedback regarding the strategic plan?
Hi, this is Kristen.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Josh.
I just want to say I think the Audrey and team did a great job following this throughout the whole COVID thing. I mean, you guys really figured out how we could implement this in the community at a time where we weren't really necessarily allowed to be open, but you guys still found ways to, make it equitable to create and foster those connections, and definitely put an infrastructure in place that the people can still access it. So I don't necessarily want anything changed, but I just want to bring to light that, it shows how much the admin team and the whole team at the library really believes in that strategic plan. I mean, we could have threw our arms up like some other libraries did and just cancel services, but we figured out how to remain part of the community. So thank you for that.
Nicely said, Josh.
Agreed. Kristen, you also had comments?
Hi, yes, it was pretty much spot on said by Josh. I was just going to compliment and say this looks well, and that the library absolutely implemented this plan during the COVID-19 pandemic. So Josh said it much better than I could have. I'm not good with words usually on the spot anyway, but that I was just literally going to echo the same thing Josh did. So just well done, and yay merrily, just awesome stuff.
Thank you. Audrey, I'm supposing that's pretty validating to know that, our strategic plan held during the pandemic. So that's a yay for the library.
Thank you. And I do appreciate those comments, and I will definitely share them with the whole team.
Next, we have the 2021 action plans.
So looking at where we're headed, the library, the administrative team is bringing forward this as our 2021 action plans that we will continue to work on this year. So looking at the long-term building plans and continuing to work on that. I think as we come back from the pandemic, and I think ours will definitely be a conversation with equity at the focus. Instead of just saying we're automatically going to go back to the hours that we had pre-pandemic, I think that will definitely be a conversation we bring back to the board on as an equity conversation. And so that'll be something I would expect a conversation with the board in the coming months. Really, community engagement, that's where we talk about how do we make sure everybody's heard. There's some skill sets and methodologies that we need to work on, and that's something that it's definitely a priority. It's for the whole city, but definitely for the library as well. So I guess at this point, I'll just open it up and see if there are any questions or concerns about the plan for 2021.
Hi, Audrey. I have no concerns for the most part. A recommendation for addition.
Okay.
Are you still on the line as well?
Perna is actually not here today.
Karen.
Karen. I'm sorry, I heard Perna.
Oh, perfect. So as I was reviewing this yesterday and thinking about the context of the times, I realized that we don't have a commitment captured in the action plan with regards to communication with the community with regards to issues involving diversity, equity, and inclusion. And to be more specific, I felt that, we maybe could have done a little bit more with regards to communication during Black History Month. And then in the light of a lot of the attacks on Asian Americans, I feel like we haven't really said much or engaged with that topic. And I know when we talked about anti-racism work, we talked about it being more than just commitment, but action, you know what I mean? Engaging with those topics and maybe starting and initiating those more challenging conversations. So I was wondering what the board as a whole felt about maybe increasing communication and responsiveness, even from an education perspective, around these events and using our platform to share that information and direct people to resources. I'd love, some input.
Hi, this is Kristen. I think that's a great idea. Forgive my newness, and I guess my follow-up would be, did you have an idea what that would look like? I know educational, maybe posts and activities that we can do to sort of spearhead that initiative, but I think it is a great idea, and I think I think specifically having it listed under action plans would be great too. I know it's probably all encompassing with what we have here now, but I think it's a good idea. The only thing I would, I guess, ask, and just because I'm not, I'm so new, what that kind of would look like, just offhand for you, what were you thinking that could be? Just maybe, social
Sure.
post, or have some
Sure.
virtual activities, or just things of that nature.
So two things to that. First, I actually didn't feel like we did have it captured in the action plans, but I felt that it could be a valuable addition, and the focus area would be equity, and the strategic priorities would be A and C, so safe and welcome and literacy, making sure that our underrepresented community members do feel welcome and do recognize that across the community we are engaging in these conversations. And then what it would look like, I can't take any credit for thinking about that because it's what Karen and Audrey and the team already does. There are times when we put out resources specific to maybe social issues, and then that's shared out on our socials and it's shared on our site. So I think if we maybe had a bit more of a deliberate plan specific to engaging in this kind of conversation, and then do what we always do with regards to sharing resources around these social issues, that would be a simple solution. That's just a starting point.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
We can
And Karen-
certainly add that to the list.
Oh, thanks, Audrey. I just wanted to let Karen know that I value her feedback as well, because I feel like she does so much work around all of this already. And I'm just seeking her insight as well as we work on this. Yeah, thank you, Karen. And the reason I brought it up in this context is because I feel like it's important for other board members to weigh in and express any concerns or validate that, because that would be new for the library, to delve into sort of a deliberate response to social issues. So if there are no concerns from library members, we can move on to the next topic. If people feel more comfortable emailing those privately, please feel free to do so.
So this is Erin. I would agree. I think it's a really good opportunity for us to put action, or at least some level of action, behind the words in the action plans here. I think my only concern, not really a concern, it's more of a comment, is we'd have to figure out where to draw the line. The library can't comment on absolutely every happening of news across the country. So that just may be a little tricky of what we would make comment on versus not. So just a thought.
Agreed. That is valuable insight. Thank you, Erin.
This is Stephanie.
Yeah,
I love the idea. Sorry, Josh.
Sorry, Stephanie, and then
Go
we'll
ahead,
tap Ken.
Stephanie. I love the idea. I think I agree with Erin with kind of, just making sure that it's not everything, but maybe engaging members of the community to help provide insight and education in these topics of social issues, instead of, I know there's people at the library who have expertise, but it might also be a way for us to capture the engagement with our community members, people who have expertise or are someone that we can turn to help get out the message and provide either a resource or communication, might also help engage with what we're trying to do here as well.
That's really valuable feedback, Stephanie. And Audrey, I want to go to Ken, but just a question I want to come back to eventually is, do we have a community group that we're affiliated with where we can get that feedback from the community and craft responses that take community member insights and opinions, into consideration? So, Ken?
There's probably the public health is looking at stuff like that relative to disparities, access to healthcare. Human Rights Commission is also investigating things like that. If you want to reach out and see what they are doing, there's a study going on right now relative to investigating those disparities by race, access to healthcare and other services that are part of the county.
Okay, I appreciate that insight, Ken. And just to clarify, I was more envisioning us responding to social issues. For example, in light of the significant attacks against Asian Americans, national attention that this has garnered, we would then choose to respond to that and provide access to resources for education around those issues.
Yeah, then I would say to respond to Human Rights Commission and see what they are doing around that issue specifically.
Okay.
But they would be the source for your comments.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is Josh. I totally love the idea. I'm focused around the resources that the team has. and then kind of who makes the decision based off of what world event is important enough, I guess. Probably a bad way of saying it, but like to one of the other board members, I think it was Aaron, what do we consider a world event? Is it just for underserved or underrepresented people? Is it every world event? I mean, we'd have to figure out what the criteria is, because obviously we can't cover every single social event. I mean, the way I envision it is, you know, if the library is an opening, we're linking resources on our social medias or websites, and when we are open, maybe creating an exhibit or something, or a selection, a special place in the library that's addressing these current issues. Like, I'm just trying to go around the resources, because the library is capable of doing a lot of things, but I think we'd be more effective making that more precise, focusing on certain issues. And I understand everything's important, but the team is currently undergoing reopening the library, trying to do that, you know, resources are limited. So we'd have to, if we were to do that, how would we as a board support that? Creating a new committee to see what issues we're going to address, leave it up to the admin team. I mean, unfortunately, it's all about resources, I guess, is my thing.
And I think those are valuable concerns. I think these are conversations that we need to have. Ultimately, I'll leave you with two things, because I don't want to harangue this. I don't want to, you know, speak about this too much. Ultimately, when we look at the communication coming out from the library, and given our commitment to equity and anti-racism, do we feel that we need to do a little bit more? Do we feel like we're too silent when there are issues that are attracting media attention? And is that an opportunity to educate our own population? So that's the context I'd like us to think about it in. But yes, I think this is all valuable feedback. And Audrey, if you're comfortable, you know, kind of guiding us along this discussion over the next couple of months, that would be great.
Yeah, and what I will plan to do is bring back an updated 2021 action plan with that added, and then we can have some more discussion next month.
Okay. I would like to take a vote, to be honest, before we add that. I want to make sure that everyone is comfortable with that addition, recognizing that there's going to be work done to explore what that looks like. I don't want it to just be me, you know, forcing something on. So if it's okay, I am going to take a vote. Is that all right?
Sure. I mean, you just need a motion.
Perfect. May I have a motion to approve the addition of a communication plan in response to social issues to the 2021 action plan?
This is Erin. I'll move for that.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
This is Kristen. I second.
Thank you. We will take vote by roll call. I'm going to start with Ken. Josh?
Aye.
Omar? Omar? Aaron?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Omar, if you would like to register your specific vote, shoot a message over. All right, so moving on from this to old business, we are talking about the space needs update first.
And just to clarify, okay, thank you, Erin. Thank you for dropping that in. So as we were thinking about, or as we've been talking, and I appreciate all the board members who've participated in meetings with City Council. They've been really helpful. I'm wondering whether we want to have a planning committee meeting to really kind of talk about building planning and where to go next. Would that be the right venue to discuss and come back?
I would say yes.
I agree with that. Some sort of plan needs to be talked about.
Okay. So, so I'll plan to call a meeting. So, and were there any comments or thoughts about the space document that was in your packet?
I absolutely love it. I think Karen did a really good job reflecting everything we asked her to reflect. So thank you, Karen. Thank you, Karen and Nicole. All right. So if we have no specific feedback on this, we can move on to the next item. Audrey, anything else before we move on to the Charter Commission?
No, well, I'll call I'll find people's calendars and we'll get a planning committee meeting scheduled.
Okay, and as chair of that, Audrey, you can feel free to email me and we can coordinate that.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So next we have the Charter Commission update.
So
go ahead, Audrey.
Oh, yeah. So I attended the meeting on March 9th, and they will not be seeking a petition, but they did approve a motion to work with city administration and the charter boards to review the charter for inconsistencies. And so I talked to Jason Luce, the city attorney. He's going to lead that process, and he will be at our April meeting. But I thought it might be helpful if there's a board member who wants to work through that document with me in preparation for the April meeting. Is there somebody who'd like to volunteer for that?
Can you specify what will be happening to the document, Audrey?
Sure. We would just look over that charter section about the library, because the charter board, they want to know where we're not following the charter language. And so we'll just need to review it. And I think it would be good to have a board member perspective on that as we do review it. And then I would think we would have that be the basis for the conversation in April.
Got you. Audrey, I'm happy to do that work with you.
Okay.
Unless anyone else is, just really interested. All right, Audrey, you and I.
Okay. Yep, we will do it. So obviously that'll be back on our agenda in April.
Perfect. All right. So then, are there any questions regarding the Charter Commission and this review of the Charter for Inconsistencies?
Hi, this is Kristen. This is just I think a clarifying question for me, or maybe it's weird, I don't know. What is this different than the policy committee type stuff? I have my first one next week, and I was just curious. Is this under the same?
No, they are not the same, and that's a great question. So
Okay.
the charter is actually from the city's charter. There is a chapter that's specific to how the library is organized. And so that's a separate document. And then the library policies, so that the library board is in control of the library board policies, but the charter, there's actually a charter commission that recommends changes to city council to change the charter. Does that help?
Yes, that does greatly. Thank you so much for answering.
Yep.
Any other questions for Audrey before we proceed? All right. Next is I think it's director's informational items next.
Right. So we posted we gave the equity update report. Were there any questions?
No.
Okay. This continues to be we spent a lot of time working on the equity action plan. I just want you to know how seriously we're working on it. So we'll continue to report on that every other month. So, okay, no questions. We'll go on to budget. So in the packet, I had really kind of talking about where we're going to be for the 2022 budget. And so I guess I just open it up for questions. So we're likely to be a pretty flat budget for 2022.
Like how flat?
I would expect us, other than, you know, where maintenance increases or something like that, I would expect us to be very flat.
So like the minimal growth of, you know, minimal growth across our services.
Well, and what it likely means is that the positions that we've held open in 2021 will be held open for 2022.
Okay.
So that's probably the biggest pinch point for our budget is, you know, there are 3 positions that are being held open right now to help us balance the budget this year. And so that puts stressors everywhere. But I mean, we have the opportunity to have decision packs, but there's not a lot of decision packs that are going to be approved this year.
Any questions specific to budget?
Audrey, I had one. Are we still asking the city and or the foundation board to help carry that one position that we had voted about a year ago?
That is in the city budget and that is approved. So that is one that's fully funded by the city right now.
Okay.
Yeah, no, great question.
All right, if there are no other questions, we will move on to sharing strengths, and we have a 2020 action plan review.
I have one more comment about the budget, and this is really actually about the 2020 budget. So there was some question about how much of the library budget would be paid for with some CARES dollars because we were doing pandemic response. And at the end of the day, it ended up that not very much of the library budget was paid for out of the CARES dollars. So it's just a clarification, because at the very end of the budget cycle, city finance took some CARES money out of the budget and put property tax dollars back in. And so just that's just kind of a point of clarification because, yeah, that wasn't how it was before. And the reason I mention it is there were some things with the CARES dollars that ended up getting approved by like the windows, the walk-up windows. They went through a slightly different approval process because they were CARES dollars. They ended up being approved within the library, within the reports that you see and approve. So I'm just making that point because it was a little bit different because of the CARES dollars, and but at the end of the day, that was all paid for with property tax dollars. It didn't change our expenses at all, but just the revenue source. So I'm just giving that as a point of clarification for 2020 when nothing was normal.
Got you. Thank you, Audrey.
Yep.
Audrey, Ken.
Yep.
Didn't all of your response to the warming center and hotline should have fell into extraordinary expenses due to COVID and categorized someplace differently and saved money in the city's budget? Am I missing something? I mean, I know how this worked in the county, but.
So initially that's what the plan was, but there was some, because of the way that the state came down and said, we're assuming that all of police and fire fall into that category. They ended up spending most of the CARES dollars because it ended up being a little bit more straightforward. So they still used all the CARES dollars to do extraordinary work, but because of some ruling or some of the clarifications that came down, it ended up being easier to put it into certain categories, and that's how they ended up doing it, is my understanding.
I just know how we handled it at the county, and yes, we used some for those salaries, but we also diverted a lot of it to community support, business relief, etc. So I'm surprised. I knew the city handled it very, very differently than we did, and you should have benefited a little bit more just based on all the time you spent in terms of response.
Right. But what I will say is we still ended up there ended up being a money going into the library reserve fund. They didn't take it all away. So that's the good news. That's the good news.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, good questions though. Good questions. When I first heard what was happening, I had it backwards in my head. I heard that they were adding more CARES dollars instead of taking them out. So that's just I just wanted you to be aware that changed.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
but that decision was made at city finance and at city administration.
All right.
Yep.
All right. If there are no more questions, we'll move on to sharing strengths with the 2020 Action Plan Review. Audrey, who is going to present that?
I will.
Okay.
So here are our 2020 action plans, and you'll see that we did actually make a lot of progress, even with COVID. We Find Free happened June 1st. We finished the reorganization of the second floor. The preparing for implementing Excite, that took a backseat to COVID. And Gail Harris delayed her retirement to 2021 because of the COVID. But, there were a lot of really great things that happened in 2020. And you'll see that Blue Cloud Mobile that we talked about a little bit earlier was on our 2020 action plans, and that's getting funded this year. So maybe that's what I was remembering instead of the February board meeting. And obviously the pandemic response was not on any of our 2020 action plans when they were created last year, but I added all of that because I thought it was so critical to what actually happened in 2020. So I will take any questions that you have.
I don't have a question, Audrey, but more so a comment. I'm just really proud of the library and your team for everything they've done to achieve some of these action plan items and also pivot in pandemic response. I really feel like we need to recognize just how much work has been done to make this a reality. So please convey our appreciation on to the entire team.
I will do that.
Anything else before we wrap up?
I do have the library services update.
Oh, yes, I forgot that was added.
Yep. So when the city did move to moderate, we did open for Library Express. It's been very well received. People have been really respectful of keeping their visits brief. So we have not had capacity issues. When after 1 week we moved back up into high, we did debate about how to respond, and how we did do that is we lowered capacity. So we're going to stay open for Library Express, but reduce capacity because we have found that we think that's a very reasonable approach rather than closing back down again. So that really huge shout out to all of the administrative team who worked really hard to get us open for Library Express, and then to figure out how to implement it and make that change when the dial changed again. So really great conversations are going on how do we keep staff and the public safe, even as things change from week to week. So, and then I just want to give an update on the water that we found on Saturday. So as I was working that day and it was Paige reported that there was, the floor was wet. We called maintenance, they came in, found the leak that was above the rotunda on the second floor. And it was a slow leak, thank goodness. But it had been, I don't know exactly how long it had been leaking, but it did wet it. So it was wet on the second floor, right by the new nonfiction area, and a little bit into the computer lab, but luckily nothing was damaged that was on the floor. And then it did leak into the Friends bookstore. And so there were some boxes on the floor that got wet, and we quickly moved anything that wasn't wet up and threw everything away. So that had gotten wet. And we did meet with the insurance adjuster this week, and Service Master came back in, and they've been running fans. And our hope is that there won't be any construction, that we'll be able to dry everything out and then just put everything back. So we haven't gotten the final word on whether there will be any drywall that has to come down, but this is nothing to compare with 2019, and we will be open. There will not be any service disruption. Any questions?
So did that lead to a mini panic attack?
I will say that it brought back a lot of trauma. It was like, oh man, I can't believe this is happening. Two totally different issues though. I mean, two totally different issues. And we have some sensors up on the third floor where the leak happened the first time, but we do not have sensors over the whole building. So there were no sensors to go off at that point. So it isn't negligence or anything like that. I mean, we have responded to how things happened the first time. This was just something very different.
Thank you, Audrey. Before we wrap up, I just do want to make a note that committee assignments have all been emailed and everyone's had a chance to review them. If you have questions, please do reach out to me or Perna, and I'm assuming chairs will be scheduling meetings in the upcoming weeks. Any questions before?
And policy committee does have a meeting scheduled, and so that will be on next month's agenda. Perfect.
Any questions?
One question I do have. So there is a group talking about equity and kind of taking a first look at some of the the library board policies. And I know it's like a huge time commitment, but if there's anybody from the policy committee that is interested in participating in some of those conversations, I mean, I don't anticipate that somebody will be able to. It's a 3-hour commitment every Friday. But if anybody is interested, we'd love to have you be part of those conversations.
Hi, this is
and obviously everything will come back to you. I mean, we know these are board policies, but we just don't feel like it's helpful to just say, here's the policy. Let's start from scratch.
Kristen, did you have something to say?
Sorry, I did. A question for Audrey. Are the 3-hour blocks during like the work day, or is it after work, but just 3 hours? Like after?
They are during the work day.
Okay, shoots, alrighty.
Yeah. But we can, if you're interested, Kristen, we can figure out a way to get you more involved.
Okay, I would like that. I think it would be, I would really like that. I think it would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any additional questions before we move to adjourn? All right. It is 5:30 and this meeting is adjourned, and we will all see each other next month. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.